Hi everyone, welcome to Timecode Pro's very first After Effects tutorial. My name is Jimmy. Today we're going to be looking at creating a satellite zoom. The kind of thing you'd get, I suppose, in James Bond films, your Bourne Identities or your Transformers, that kind of thing. So let's hop right in there and have a look at what we're going to be creating. Desktop, satellite zoom. Okay, so here is what we're going to be looking at. So a few things going on there. Got some Venetian blinds going on, some horizontal lines there, a bad TV warp routine each shot, a kind of glow at the bottom, a nice vignette around the periphery, and a white kind of line popping down the middle of the screen there. And obviously gradually we're zooming into a location in the UK. Cool. So let's get right in there and get to work. So first off, you're going to want to get hold of a load of pictures. Best ones I've found are actually on Bing Maps. The picture quality seems to be really good the further in you go. So I'm going to get a load of these. I'm going to get all of those. Shift click obviously to highlight multiples. And if there's certain ones you don't want, for the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to be talking in Mac language. Forgive all those PC users out there. I'll try and remember the difference, but for the time being it's strictly Mac. So it's command click on any ones that you might not want, but yeah, for the time being let's keep all those. Okay, and let's bring those in. Really important when working in After Effects, keep everything organized. Make folders or bins. I'm going to call this one images, and let's drag those into our images. Cool. Images folder. So once you've got your pictures in there, we're going to go composition, new composition. And I'm going to use this preset for the time being, HDTV 720x25, so it's 1280 wide, 720 height, 25 frames a second. That should be fine for this. Okay, I'm going to bring our pictures down into our composition. And by default, because of the way I ordered these as I was capturing them, it's done it in the order that I want. So the furthest out is at the top, as it goes down we go in, which is exactly what we want. I'm going to keep the pictures here. As you can see, they're a little larger than our composition size. That's fine. If anything, that's good. That's what we want, and you'll see why a little later on. So with our pictures in there, we're going to start off by creating our kind of lens that we're looking through. So to do that, I'm going to start off by creating a new solid. I'm going to make it black, and that's fine. Make sure we've got it at the comp size, which is obviously 1280 by 720. I'm going to call this one vignette. That's going to be our border. So obviously the screen's gone black, that's cool. If you push and hold on your shape tool here, we're going to use ellipse, or you can hit Q and cycle through the different shapes we've got, but for the time being we're going to use ellipse. If you double click on that, it will give you a kind of ellipse shape around the layer that you've just made, which is fine. We're going to change it from add to subtract, so we've kind of got this border going on, and we're going to soften the edges. Shortcut for this is F, and I'll bring up our feather control. So let's increase that, and you'll see when we let go, our edges are now a little softer than they once were. That's probably a little bit too heavy though, heavier vignette, so I'm going to decrease the size of it. Easiest way to do this, hit on our layer, double tap M until we get our expansion tool here, and I'm going to increase that. Fine. Okay, let's talk about our modes, our transfer modes. There's a plethora in here, all with varying results depending on what kind of look you're after. I know just from cycling through these the kind of thing I'm after. Rather than clicking on each one, like that, so going dancing dissolve through to darken, if you hold shift and plus, you can cycle through these and you can see the results as they kind of change. It's hard to tell what's going on here. There's small differences, believe me. But for the time being, I'm going to use classic colour burn, and with that I'm going to knock down the transparency. So T for transparency will bring up your opacity control. I'm going to lower that down a little bit, and again that will start eating out into the edges, which is cool. Excellent. Now if I knock off some of these, you can see how this is going to sit over our closer pictures. So the corners are like almost like a little bit burnt. going to bring that back up a little bit so it's a bit darker. That's good. That'll do fine. I may change that later, but for the time being, that's cool. Now what I want to do, I want to add a green tint to this vignette that I've got. So the easiest way to do this, if we duplicate our layer, our vignette layer, Command D, Windows obviously Control D, and we want to change the properties, so basically change it from black to green and keeping everything else pretty much the same. Shortcut for this is Shift Command Y, and simply just choose a kind of green colour. Again, this doesn't have to be green, it can be blue. For the purposes of this tutorial, we'll go green. That's cool. Now if we turn off our first dark vignette, you can see the differences between the two. It's not much, admittedly, but if we start tweaking this, we should see some different results. So perhaps let's change the transfer mode so we can see a bit more of that green. That's cool. I'm going to pop that beneath the black one, and that's good. That's pretty much what I'm after. So I'm going to cycle through these pictures again to see how this looks as we get closer. That's good. That's exactly what we're talking about. The way I'm switching these off is down here. Just hitting the little eye icon will switch off any layers. Good. So we've got our vignettes and our pictures in there. Good. Next up, I'm going to create a kind of, I guess it's a specular, it's the best way to describe it. So like a white glow, as if you were looking through a piece of glass. I'm going to call this specular and make it comp size. It's checked. Good. Okay, that. And again, we're going to get our ellipse tool. This doesn't have to be exact, just as long as it's roughly in the middle. Now if I click and drag, normally it's just going to do this shape and it's orienting around pretty much where I started. Now if I hold Command as well as Shift, it's going to make a perfect kind of circle and it's going to orient around our point of origin. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, as I said. I just want this kind of thing going along the bottom like so. Round there's good. And then F again to feather our edges. Just bring that feathering up. That's cool. Now if you hit V on your keyboard, it brings up our selection tool. Just a few shortcuts here I'm going to run through. The more you can remember, the better. Speed things up. So yeah, with our specular layer highlighted, I'm going to change it from normal to add. Now this may seem a little random now, but as we sort of zoom in through these pictures, it has a nice effect on these kind of more, I guess, busy, the best way to describe it, busy images as we get closer. And it gives it that more kind of elliptical feel, as if you're looking through glass. Again, you don't have to do this, it doesn't have to be white, it can be yellow, green, whichever you like, but for the time being, that's what I'm going to go for. Okay, next up, I want to give it a kind of TV or a computer screen look. The way I'm going to do this is by making a new layer, so Command Y, a new solid layer, sorry, and I'm going to make mine a kind of electric blue. So let's call this blinds overlay. If we go to our effects and presets little window and type in Venetian, or VEN for short, Venetian blinds, we don't want to transition necessarily. Actually no, we'll go for that. If you click and drag that onto our blue solid, you'll see up here, top left hand corner, we have our Venetian blinds effects controls. Now if you cycle through these commands, these controls, you'll see what they all do. The main ones are this one here, which is the transition completion, and the width. That's all we're going to be using now. So obviously, the wider, you can see how we kind of see what it does. So I'm going to make mine quite narrow, and just tweak my transition completion until I'm happy with it. That's not bad. And I want this at 90 degrees. So this may be kind of reminiscent of certain, I don't know, action films, science films, where they're looking through the kind of, the TV or a camera. It's a nice effect. Just a little too intense, so I'm going to knock the opacity down. T to bring up our opacity command. T on the keyboard there. Alternatively, you can go drop down, transform, and all of our key transformation tools are here. So 45 seems to be a good number. Again, I can change my layer mode, and that's cool. I'm happy with that for the time being. Good. Okay, so we've got all our key elements in there. So I'm going to lock these off because I don't want to change my specular, I don't want to change any of my vignettes or my overlay. In fact, all of my pictures as well are fine. I'm using this lock command down here. This means as I try and click on them or change any attribute, I can't. To unlock, click it again. This is really handy when you've got a load of layers that are on top of each other like we've got, and you perhaps want to move one but keep all the others there. If you lock all of them off apart from the one you want to move, that's exactly what we're after. So if I unlock this one, say, that's the only one that's going to move, which is fine. I'm going to undo that. A little side note, the way After Effects sees layers is in the order that you've got them down here, so from top to bottom. If you think of it like a pile of paper, this layer down here would be the bottom piece on a pile. Imagine you're looking from the top, looking down, you're going to see this layer first. So when it's on, you're going to see it. When it's off, you're going to see that one, and so on. So for instance, with our pictures, at the moment we're seeing this shot, it's the furthest shot out. So if I turn that off, you can see the next one beneath it, which is this one here. If I turn that off, you're seeing this picture. I hope that makes sense. Next up, we are going to get our wipe in there. So what I mean by that is if I refer back to our clip again. So I'm going to go desktop, satellite zoom, and here. So what I mean is this kind of here, this thing, this white bar going across the middle, which acts as our wipe between the two images. So to do that, layer, new, solid, a white solid, again, doesn't have to be white, whatever colour you want. I'm going to call this wipe, so I keep track of all my layers. Another good thing, make sure you name all your layers, just to keep track of everything and what's going on. I'm going to use my rounded rectangle tool here. So when I've got my solid layer in here, I'm going to go to the middle, command click, and drag out to around there, something like that, and then F for feather with our layer selected. Alternatively, we can drop down the menu, masks, mask 1, which is obviously the layer we're working with, and increase the feather amount somewhere around that. That looks good to me. So what we're going to want to do is animate this wipe from top to bottom, like in our video we saw a second ago. Just like that, from top all the way to the bottom. So we're going to go mask path, which is here. Make sure at the beginning of our composition, hit our stopwatch to make a keyframe, and we're going to, with our layer selected, drag it all the way up out of shot. Now if you can't get it all the way out of shot like I've got here, two ways you can do this. You can either go down here 50% and drag up that a little bit more. A bit more like professional, I guess, dynamic way of doing it would be on the mouse, whether you've got a touch or a roller. Just sort of roll in 1, 2, 3, however many clicks you want, or again out. Alternatively, hold the spacebar and click and drag. You can sort of pan around your composition just to get hold or get rid of any layers that you want in or out. So my layer's at the top there, that's cool. I'm going to cycle forwards about, let's see, I don't know, about 6 frames around that. To do this incrementally, it's on the keyboard, page up and page down. We'll move 1 frame at a time. Don't get mixed up with Final Cut and Adobe Premiere Pro, which is your arrow keys. If you do that, that will move your layer up or right, left or down, depending on which way you want to go. So it's page up and page down to move along the timeline. Okay, good. So we're going to start here with our mask path. Go forward 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to get rid of that keyframe because I don't want that. And I'm going to move my mask down to the bottom. So that's spacebar, click and drag, make sure it's all the way off our screen, and let's just review that little animation. So it starts there, it goes all the way down. So frame by frame, obviously page up and page down to go through. Cool. Now if I hit spacebar, it's going to play that. That's pretty much what I want. Good. Once we've got this wipe, we're happy with the motion. If we go to the last keyframe, which is obviously this one here, which is 6 frames in, with our layer selected, if we do Shift Command D or in PC user's case, Shift Control D, it's going to make a split between our layer point. Wherever our marker head is, if we do that, wherever that is, so Shift Command D, it's going to cut our layer into two, keeping both the old one and creating a new one. So I don't want this bit that I've got here because nothing happens. It's just our layer sitting at the bottom, doing not a lot really. So I'm going to delete that. I'm also going to delete this one here because again it doesn't do anything. All I'm interested in is this wipe of it going down to the bottom, which is cool. Now this is up to you as to how many wipes you have and how fast they happen. Just for the purposes of the tutorial, I'm going to do one every 3 seconds. So if I click and drag along 3 seconds on my timeline, we know whether you're exactly on it or not by looking over here. If that isn't displaying the time, just Control if you're PC users, or Command if you're Mac, click and it will cycle through all the different, or the 3 different ways of looking at it. I generally work with the time just because it's more kind of universal, I guess. So 3 seconds, and I'm going to duplicate this layer, wipe layer. So to do that, with it selected, Command D, or if you're a PC user, Control D, and just get it so that it's at the beginning of where we are. Now if you want to zoom in and out, there's 2 ways. Using our mouse and keyboard combined, we can hold Alt on the keyboard and just roll in or roll out. And wherever your mouse is, that's where it zooms into. So I want to be over here on this red bit, and I want it exactly on 3 seconds. So I can see here, frame by frame, bang on 3 seconds, which is perfect. So again, let's duplicate this, Command D, go along to 6 seconds. Not quite on 6. Oh, tell a lie, it's on 6. D, so Command D, sorry, Command D each time, and just move these along. I'm just going to do this roughly for the time being. 9, 12, 15, 18, thank you GCSE Maths. Let's just get these tightened up a little bit. It's good. Again, if you hold spacebar anywhere on your timeline window or your composition window, you can move around. It's just a little easier to navigate sometimes. Okay, so I'm just going to go to 15 seconds. So that, oh no, tell a lie, 18 seconds. So that's one more there. Okay, good. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 wipes. Now what we want to do is time these wipes up with revealing the next image from our satellite pictures. So to do that, we're going to use an effect in our effects and presets palette called linear wipe, just here. So if I place this on our first, I'm going to unlock it first, sorry, on our first image, click and drag straight on there. Now nothing's going to happen straight away because it's set to just keep the image as it is. What we were interested in doing is making this wipe from top to bottom like it did on our example video. So at the moment this is going from left to right. I'm just clicking and dragging here just so I can show you guys what's going on. So we want to flip that so it's going from top to bottom. So we need to do the same or similar to what we did with our wipe position. We're going to make a few keyframes, okay? So starting off at 0%, click our stopwatch, which is just here. Our stopwatch makes keyframes with our layer selected. If we hit U on the keyboard, you'll see a keyframe has been made, and it relates to our transition completion tool on our linear wipe effect. So I'm going to go forward about, if we keep it the same as our wipe duration, which is 6 frames, I'm going to do the same for this. So if I go page down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, change it to 100%, that should move at the same time as our wipe, like so. Hopefully that's making sense. So we started off out. Our wipe is moving at the same time as our linear wipe. Just to demonstrate that a bit better, if I knock off this wipe layer, you can see it's just a straightforward line. It's going from top to bottom. If for whatever reason you can see a line or a break in the middle of the screen, go back to your linear wipe effect and just turn the feathering up just a touch, just to hide any wrongdoings. So if we remove that wipe again, you'll see it kind of blends the two images together a little better. See, the more you increase that, the more it's blended. Somewhere around there is good. So I'm going to turn my wipe layer back on. And that's the hard bit out of the way. Really now it's just a case of duplicating our effects for our linear wipe and making sure they're timed up with our wipe transitions that we made earlier. So I'm going to go ahead now and do that. I'll do a couple more for you guys to see, in case you didn't quite catch it first time. Okay, so to get this linear wipe effect on all of our other images and get it timed up with our wipes that we've made, we're going to want to click on our linear wipe effect, the actual name of it, and Command C for Mac, Control C if you're Windows, and Command V on the image that you want to apply it to. So in this case, obviously it's the next image down. Now if you page down, you'll see the image wipes across in tandem with our white light transition, which works kind of well. So we're going to do the same for each image. Now if I hit U with our layer selected, I can see whether or not we have applied our effect, so that's cool. It just saves us, accidentally putting the same effects on twice or further down the line or somewhere wrong. It's a good little workflow to have. So yeah, next image, again paste it, Command or Control V, and check it works, which it does, and we're going to go through. I'll do one more for you, and then I'm going to whiz ahead and do the rest of mine. So make sure it's timed up with our wipe. So for me 9 seconds, and then Command V, page down, check it works, and we're rolling. Okay guys, so you should be near enough there now. I'm just doing my last one, make sure on 18 seconds, timed up with our wipe. Go to my layer, I've already hit U to get it down, paste again, U, and there it is. That page down to move along the timeline, and I can see that's worked just perfectly. So next up we're going to put an orbit on our images to kind of replicate the Earth spinning. So to do this, if we click all our layers that have our transitions, so mine go down to there. I haven't done these purely because of time constraints. And we're going to make these 3D. So to do that, once they've all selected, if you see this little cube icon here, and follow it down, we're going to want to check all of these layers so that they're 3D. Now this doesn't mean that the layers are going to extrude like they would in say Maya or Cinema 4D. It just turns them into a layer in 3D space. We will touch on some more tutorials down the line, but for the time being, just take my word and you'll see where we go with it. Okay, so with all of our layers now made into 3D layers, we're going to make a new camera. So if you come up to here to Layer, New Camera, make sure 28mm is selected just for this. Hit OK, and that'll put in a new camera for us. Now what I'm interested in doing here is rotating it. So if I hit R with our camera layer selected, it'll bring up our rotation tools. Now it's Z rotation that I'm interested in, spinning the Earth as if we're orbiting around the UK. But if I go too far, you'll see it's seeing the layers beneath it, which obviously we don't want to do. So to get around this, if I put this back to 0, which this is on, if I hit P for position, we've got 3 numbers here, 640, 360, 995.6 or whatever. It's this last number that I'm interested in. What this translates to is 640 is X, so that's across, left and right. 360 represents our Y value, which is up and down. And this one is our Z value, which is back and forward. So I want to go forward into the UK, just enough so that when I go to my rotation, if I hit R, and then rotate on Z, we don't see the edges of our layers. We kind of get a little bit there in the bottom right hand corner and now the top left hand corner. That's probably too much for what we need anyway. So all I'm going to do is start it around 20 degrees, right at the beginning of our composition here. Make a keyframe, clicking our stopwatch there, drag all the way to our last picture, which is, for me, is 20 seconds. I'm going to set that back to 0, 20 back to 0. Okay, so that's pretty much it, guys. Just to recap, we have imported a load of images into After Effects, layered them on top of each other, added our transitions on each image, made our own white wipe transition and made them all 3D, applied a rotation just to simulate the Earth orbiting, and timed it up all nicely with some nice vignettes and glows. I think altogether it looks pretty cool. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed the first tutorial from Timecode Pro. I'm sure there's going to be many more. If you have any questions, queries or anything like that, feel free to comment on the video, and I hope I can be of assistance. Look forward to seeing you guys again. Until next time, goodbye.